Tonight, as the sun goes down, you will likely just flick a switch and watch your room fill with bright light. It feels entirely normal to us today. But for 99.9% of human history, that switch didn't exist. For over 300,000 years, our ancestors lived half of their entire lives enveloped in near absolute darkness. This single fact completely changes how we should look at sleep, the origins of storytelling, and even what it means to be human. Let's step back in time. The oldest reliable evidence of humans controlling fire dates back roughly 1,000 years, discovered in Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa. Controlling fire did much more than just keep the cold away. It made the night usable. A roaring campfire created a glowing circle of safety, roughly 30 feet in diameter, effectively adding 2 to 4 extra usable hours to the human day. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner published a fascinating study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. She spent time observing the Bushmen, or Kung people in the Kalahari Desert. She found that during the daytime, about 80% of their conversations were purely practical, focused on survival, working, and hunting. But once night fell and they gathered around the fire, a massive shift occurred. 81% of their nighttime chatter was dedicated to storytelling, myths, and jokes. The warm glow of the firelight was the true birthplace of human culture. In many ways, the campfire was our original theater, classroom, and church. Because of this heavy reliance on the natural cycle of day and night, our ancestors also slept very differently than we do today. In 2001, historian A. Roger E. Kirsch uncovered something amazing. Digging through historical records, he found over 500 references spanning multiple centuries, from prayer books in the 1400s and medieval court records to personal diaries, medical texts, and even Homer's Odyssey. All of them casually mentioned something called a first sleep and a second sleep. The traditional sleep pattern worked like this. You would go to bed shortly after sunset and sleep for about 4 hours. Then, you would naturally wake up in the middle of the night for 1 to 2 hours, before going back to sleep for another 4 hours until dawn. This wasn't a disorder. This wasn't insomnia. This was simply how all humans slept for thousands of years. During this midnight window of wakefulness, people weren't just staring at the ceiling in frustration. Couples were encouraged to use this time for conception. People would quietly visit neighbors, reflect on their dreams, write, pray, or simply lie in the dark and think. In fact, a doctor's manual from the 1500s specifically recommended this quiet midnight period as the absolute best time for studying and deep reflection. If you are wondering if there is scientific proof for this ancient rhythm, there is. In 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Verrat, the National Institute of Mental Health, conducted a groundbreaking experiment. He placed volunteers in an environment with 14 hours of total darkness every night for a month, completely cutting off all artificial light. The results were astounding. Slowly but surely, every single participant naturally shifted back into that ancient pattern. Hours of sleep. 1 to 3 hours of quiet wakefulness, followed by another 4 hours of sleep. During that midnight waking phase, their brains showed a massive spike in prolactin, a hormone deeply associated with the profound relaxation you feel during meditation or after intimacy. Participants described this period as incredibly peaceful, reflective, and almost meditative. It was a completely distinct state of human consciousness that most of us living in the modern world have never experienced. So, what destroyed this ancient rhythm? Light. The death of the traditional night started in the 1600s with the introduction of street lamps in cities like Paris under Louis XIV, followed by London. Then came cheaper candles, gas lamps in the 1800s, and the ultimate game changer, Thomas Edison's commercialization of the electric light bulb in 1879. Before this, the night was fiercely protected as a time of rest. Even the word curfew comes from the French couvre-feu, which literally translates to cover fire. In medieval towns, a bell would ring at night, signaling citizens to put out or cover their fires, because the night belonged exclusively to darkness and sleep. In fact, walking around a medieval European city after dark without a lantern could literally be illegal, as the night was heavily associated with criminals and supernatural fears. But slowly, light conquered the darkness. Today, the average person is exposed to bright artificial light for 7 to 8 hours after the sun goes down. The blue light, blasting from our screens actively, suppresses our body's production of melatonin. Our brains simply cannot tell the difference between a glowing screen at 11 p.m. and the midday sun, causing a massive delay in melatonin release and completely shattering our natural circadian rhythm. To prove how completely out of sync we are, studies show that people who go camping for just one single week with absolutely no artificial light have their melatonin cycles reset by nearly 2 hours. Their bodies finally start releasing melatonin at sunset, exactly as nature intended, instead of hours later. We didn't just push back our bedtime, we completely erased an entire beautiful phase of human consciousness. Now, when we wake up at 2 a.m. and toss and turn in the dark, we panic, label it as insomnia, and look for pills and treatments. But perhaps that midnight awakening isn't a malfunction at all. Maybe it's just your body trying to remember what it was biologically built to do for over 300,000 years. If this new perspective on our forgotten history fascinated you, please take a second to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so we can keep exploring these hidden truths together. Because in the end, we traded our body's natural rhythm, storytelling around the campfire, and the beauty of a starry sky for a simple light switch, and most of us never even realized what we lost forever.